Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Yeah, another edition of Mental Health Monday this week. A brilliant edition with Ryan Ferguson, who's written a new book about life as a Tranmere Rovers fan and the history of Tranmere Rovers Football Club, as well as exploring some of the issues of living with OCD. To discuss those matters and more, he's back on the show. Jake Mills from Chasing the Stigma. Jake, great to see you. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm okay.
We'll talk about OCD, something that I was, I think, ill-educated about. I think as much as anything, it was interesting to hear sort of Ryan's version of OCD, because I think OCD comes in many different forms. Obsessive-compulsive disorder. First and foremost, though, you're back because you've been on paternity leave.
I have. It's, I now have a 3 and a bit week old daughter. So yeah, I feel like I'm just getting back to the real world, and it's okay.
It's weird, isn't it, when your life has changed a lot, on the circumstances of your life has changed a lot. Second time round, it's not that different.
No.
But then the rest of the world literally just carried on.
Yeah, second time round, I don't want to say I cared less. So I just won't say nothing. Do you know what? People keep kind of asking, how is it? And for me, it's fine.
Yeah.
My wife's breastfeeding, so she's up doing the feeds. I'll be up to maybe change the odd nappy during the night, but yeah, I'm sleeping great. It's good.
We thought with the second one we were on to an absolute winner, because I swore after the first that we needed to get out of the house. Now, at first she was born start of October, and the weather wasn't great, so it was quite hard to get out and about, go for long walks. But the second, my little lad was born in middle of May, just at the period last year where it was just sunny every day for about 18 weeks in a row.
Ridiculous, though.
So we could easily throw him in the pram and go out. And he came back on the Sunday morning or the Sunday afternoon. The Monday morning, we both went. We took my daughter to the childminder so that she could have a, quote, normal day, and we could just do absolutely nothing. I said, just go for a walk through the park. When we got to the park, we were like, I'll tell you what, it's about lunchtime now. He's asleep. Should we just go and get some lunch? And we sat in the cafe. We had like a panini and a cup of coffee, and the baby was asleep, and everyone was looking and going, oh, how old? I was like, literally a day. A day and a half. And they were going, oh, good to see you're out and about. And I was going, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's great to be out and about. And that was the best. And then life just carried on from that point on. Because I'll never forget the first time round, I thought, actually, my mind shift has changed, or my mind has shifted so much in terms of how I view the world, that it was quite hard to look at the old world out of the front door and see it as the same place. And I'll never forget this 10 days that we went through, and it was dark and it was cold. And it was miserable outside, but inside it was even worse, because we were like, what on earth is going on?
That's it. I think you said something there that summed up the second child as well, which is that you threw him into the pram. I think that is summing up that second child, where you're like, shut up. That first time around, you're like, oh, I'll just put this cardigan on really gently. Just get your arm in there.
Well, it's judged by how slowly you pull out of the hospital, because the first time you can see a car on the horizon, you're going, well, I'll just wait for this one to go past, because you got the baby in a new car seat in the back. But then for the second one, it's just like, oh, there you go. I'm whipping out here. That thing with one hand where you do the open palm, swirling it around on the steering wheel.
Yeah, and so, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna kind of go under the assumption that everybody's the same and that it's like this for everyone. But certainly, I would agree with you, and I think we've spoke about this before, because our kids aren't too distance apart in age, and I think I would say, and discussing it with my wife as well, the first time round, I would describe that pregnancy, the baby being born, and that first couple of weeks as just completely absorbing everything about your life. I don't necessarily. I look back at pictures and videos of my little boy when he was even, I don't know, maybe 9 months, and I can't remember it. I can't really remember him being like that, and I think partly that is they just grow up so fast that you do forget it. But also, I think we were just in this. we were just absorbed by it. We were just totally under this cloud of we have no idea what to do, no idea.
And you'll notice it second time around, because you'll notice with the second one, things will start happening, and you'll say to one another, was he doing this, or did this used to happen?
Yeah.
When did he start doing that? And you'll look at it and you'll think, I have no idea, because what your brain does, I think what it does, and I'm not a psychologist, it kind of goes, look, you need to be on this in the moment, at this very moment in time, because you don't have a clue what's going on. Yeah. So get dealing with this situation, and then I'll just park everything and dump it at a later date, because you're going to need that brain space for something else that's coming. And you get around to it. And I've had this with my brother ringing me and going, did Evie ever start of and I'll go, yeah, but I couldn't tell you when that was. And the only way I can do it is to start looking through my phone and try and find like her wearing outfits that she may have been wearing at the time. Think, well, she must have been around about 18 months old at that particular moment in time.
But for you, that's the most important thing as well. In that moment, it can seem like a huge whatever it is that you're talking about. It can seem so massive and so. I don't know, even just having like a little bit of a cold or something, or not sleeping, crying those first couple of nights, you're like, I cannot imagine ever getting through this. I don't know how we're going to get through this. And I suppose it's like with everything that we talk about on the show to do with poor mental health and everything else, is that you don't have any kind of knowledge and nothing to compare it with. Yeah. And that's what makes it hard, because if ever I know anyone who's having kids for the first time, the first thing I say to them is it will get worse before it gets better, but it will get better.
And when it gets better, it'll be like awesome, hopefully. Yeah,
it won't last like that forever. And I think kind of that's one of the biggest difference that we've noticed this time, is that we understand it, we trust it, we get tired. I think it was you actually gave me the advice of saying to each other, we know this tiredness is, and that's all that is. We're just tired. Getting through that. I don't know if I would say if my wife has struggled more or less than last time. I couldn't really say. I think she's found it hard. But again, knowing that that's the process. But one thing that I wanted to mention today, which is probably the biggest difference between becoming a dad for the first time 3.5 years ago and becoming a dad for the second time 3.5 weeks ago, was that I was included in the assessments from the health visitor, midwife health visitor. I don't, just people just turn up to your house. I don't know which one it is. When they were talking about mental health. And we know that this is something that has been overlooked by NHS up until the back end of last year, looking at postnatal depression in dads, in new dads, in dads who have already been dad before. And this is something that's really important, because when we're talking about mental health in men, and when we're talking about depression and suicide and all these different things within men, postnatal depression's never been talked about, never been discussed, and never been considered as an option, as a possibility. And it is. And when we talk about one of the biggest contributing factors in poor mental health, it's change in situation. There's no bigger change in situation than having a child, whether that's for the first time or for the 15th time. That your life does change, whether it gets easier or not, it does change. And to be, I think the first time when I became a dad for the first time, I'd say only 3.5 years ago, I think the only kind of conversation that I had with the health visitor was kind of talking to me as if I'm there to, in fact, I remember the words is, you've got to be there to rub her feet and to make a cup of tea. That was my inclusion in that, was look after your partner, and obviously there's a role in that, but I was never, ever, ever asked about my mental health. And this time I was specifically asked about it. And every time mental health comes up at all, my wife kind of like will roll her eyes at me, because she knows that I'm like ready and waiting. Okay, come on, ask me, because I want to have this conversation. But I purposely didn't say anything about what I do or anything, and just let the process happen the way that it was meant to happen.
You'd have been unbearable if they hadn't have said anything, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah. I was like, I hope she doesn't ask.
Lock the front door.
Yeah.
Conversation now.
And I'll get my cards ready and all that. But I was asked, in a nice way, in a normal way. My wife was asked as well. But I just thought that when we talk about mental health the way that we do and as regularly as we do, you'll be asked questions like I'm often asked questions. What differences are we seeing? And more often than not, we're talking about how maybe people are talking about it more, but fundamentally nothing's really changed. But that is a fundamental change.
But also it's about opportunity, because if you actually think about it, with everything that went on in the hospital and the fact that your wife probably had 1,000,001 different appointments that the partner isn't always able to attend, those health visitor midwife meetings that they come to your house, they're probably the one opportunity to ask that question, because actually you're probably not going to be involved in many other of those types of things along the journey, particularly mum's on maternity leave, and that's the normality, unfortunately, for a lot of families. The mum deals with it with a little red book and all the things. That those moments of intervention or possible intervention are few and far between for the dad. So it's good that they captured those moments, and when that moment came around, the question was asked, because if it's not asked at that point,
it's not going to be asked.
Yeah, there's not another point that comes down the line that opportunity comes around.
No, and it's you're in your own home. You've had a bit of time to kind of try to adjust and to get used to this. But I do think that when we talk about any fundamental changes that have been made in the last 5 years, obviously there'll be a number, but I would say that's one of the biggest. And we've got to kind of congratulate people who have really campaigned for years and years, people like Mark Williams and people like him who have campaigned for this, to say this is a real thing and we have to be asking the question. And again, just to kind of to make the point as well, the way it was asked to me and my wife was that it was equal and that it was absolutely normal, and that if I answered in a negative to say no, I'm not feeling like that, it was almost it was giving me the platform to say you can say no. It wasn't kind of just, it wasn't like an empty question to say and you're all right,
exercise, yeah.
It wasn't like a you're okay, you're not going, you haven't got anything else kind of going on, have you? It wasn't like that. It was actually, it felt genuine. Some of that might be the actual person who asked it, but the fact that they were asking, I thought was huge, really.
Jake Mills is with us from Chasing the Stigma, back from paternity leave and here to discuss mental health matters. Every Tuesday on the radio as part of Mental Health Extra. Ryan's story, OCD, by the way, is one of those things, obsessive compulsive disorder, I think you hear about from like maybe TV shows that people think it's about switching light switches on and off and things like that. It was quite interesting to hear that Ryan, someone who wanted to write a book but was doing it with OCD, was almost having to use OCD as a means of both helping him prepare for it, but also to try not and sort of sideswipe his ability to write this book, to sit down in a room and turn out 84,000 words or whatever it was on Tranmere Rovers Football Club. And as well, and it was just such an interesting thing that he was going, look, I live with OCD and I want to write a book, so I've got to get through this no matter what. I've got to find a way of doing it. That he wasn't defeated by OCD. He wasn't ruling out doing anything through OCD.
Yeah, I think when we talk about stigma, I'd argue that OCD is probably in the top 3, maybe 5, but no, I'd probably say the top 3 conditions that are misused, the words or the phrases that are misused more than most, really. And we do hear that all the time when people will say, I'm a bit OCD, or you're able to kids, all the time. And like my son would like line up toys or something and someone go, oh God, is he OCD, or he's a bit OCD, look the way he's lining them up. And you're like, people just do not know enough about what OCD actually is as a disorder that can take over somebody's life. And when we talk about that stigma, I would put OCD right up there as one of those things that totally being misused. But to hear about how, it is there, it is a thing, but you can live with it, you can make kind of, you can achieve things, your dreams, your wishes, your things that you've always wanted to do. And it's about adapting, and that's what life is about in general. It's about adapting to your situation, whatever that might be. Did you get a copy of the book? Because
I've not had one sent through yet. But it was interesting because what he was saying.
Because I was going to say I wanted one.
It was one of those where what he was saying was that his OCD in and of itself is a thing where if he's got an idea, his OCD will go, right, take this idea and run with it, which some people would say, and I tried to hint at this in the interview, and I think it came across that some would see that as a positive because it has this sort of planning element to it. And actually said that when he looked back, he thought it was quite comprehensive, but it was that obsessive, which is why, the OCD, obsessive, that there's an unhealthiness to that obsession. It's not about desire to do it, I want to do it. It's an obsession with it, something that you're not in control of as well. It was quite interesting how something which, for want of a better phrase, might be quite a useful thing that, you can prepare things. But when it's done in that obsessive way, it goes beyond the normal planning mode that you'd have for how many words you want it to write, how you'd publish a book, how you'd market a book.
And that's the key to how people view it and the actual reality is that when something is an obsession, and again, I think obsession and obsessive is something that we do use a bit flippantly as well, where you'll be obsessed with a song or a TV show or whatever. But it's that beyond how we can comprehend that obsession, that's when it becomes the problem. Having things neat and tidy is not necessarily an obsession.
Just wanted to mention the Edinburgh Festival is ongoing at the moment. Just reading an article from the BPS, British Psychological Society. There's going to be teams of mental health professionals, including psychologists, art therapists, nurse therapists and psychologists in training, offering taster sessions to demonstrate kind of therapies are available through the NHS Lothian and the BPS in Scotland. The Edinburgh Fringe, they're hosting 2-hour-long sessions at Fringe Central in Appleton Tower. They've been hosting those across different Fridays, which I thought was a good idea, another way through the Edinburgh Festival, which is about arts and culture, to actually say, and this is at the heart of it too, come and see what we're about.
Yeah, totally needed. And I could name 50 comedians who would all agree with that, as well as people in the arts as well. And it's just about getting it out and not just pushing it under the carpet and thinking that people who are in the arts or in comedy are just the clowns and meant to not have any feelings themselves.
Jake, thank you for your time. Great to see you back.
And you?
Jake Mills from Chasing the Stigma. If you've been affected by any of the issues we raised through Mental Health Monday, you can find mental health services close to you visiting Hub of Hope, hubofhope.co.uk, or download the app, which will use the location on your device to find local mental health services close to you. Hubofhope.co.uk is the website. If you want to check that out, there's also a link on there to Samaritans if you'd like to speak to someone quickly, and the number is via the website, hubofhope.co.uk, and on the app too.
Mental Health Monday
On Radio City Talk.
with Mick Coyle.
Tackling the stigma.
Radio City Talk.